You want to address?
We're all here in the snow.
You want to address the parade issue quick?
I do.
Or how do you want to do it, Jake?
Well, we can go to the parade here because yesterday the Chiefs had their celebration parade for winning the Super Bowl in Kansas City. It was cold, as you'd expect, in the middle of February. People were out. 1 million people or so, 800,000 to 1 million people were in attendance for this parade. And, obviously at parades, these guys let loose. The season's over. They can enjoy life and be like us and party when their tough season's over. And you had a problem with that, Sip.
No, do we have to have them?
Do we have to have a celebration parade?
Do you have to have a parade? Do you? I mean, I'm just asking. Does every championship in every major league have a
what about college?
Sort of this grotesque display of, I mean, just it's not a good look for anybody.
Did LSU have a parade following their title in 2019? Though?
Yeah, we had a huge one, and we threw beads to everybody. It was you kind of wound.
That sounds fun.
You wound through campus, ended up at the PMAC. That would be the Pete Maravich
Did
basketball
you wind
arena, and it was outstanding there. But there was no. It was all coaches, players. Then we had a big celebration inside like that, but there was no drinking or anything. I'm sure there was outside. There was ample amounts.
Of course,
but
I can guarantee there was ample amounts.
I just don't. I just wonder if it's necessary. I mean, is it necessary?
It's a way for the fans to see their players, which could be role models and idols, in a humanized sense, basically. They're humanized. They're not on the field. They don't have their pads on. Their helmets are off. They're normal people celebrating like they were celebrating.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to go too far down the road. I just saw the video and it just kind of looks like it doesn't need to happen.
You tell me that if Nebraska won a national championship, you wouldn't want to have a parade here? You'd be like, no, Dick, we don't need the damn parade. We just won the game. That's good enough.
Now, wait a second.
No parade necessary.
When they won the national, they've done this before. Nebraska's won.
It's been a long time, but
there wasn't parades that I can remember. They had there's definitely a celebration at the Bob Devaney Sports Center. I can remember that. But if there were parades, the text line will have to let me know because I missed the parades.
What text line? Were there parades following Nebraska's national championships in either the 70s or the 90s?
94, 95, 97. I do not remember any parades down O Street.
I don't know.
So, Jake, I don't know what you're talking about exactly.
I didn't say there was. I'm just saying.
You said if Nebraska wins a national title, there'll be a parade. Well, they've won 3 and there were no parades.
I would bet right now if it happens, since they've been so bad, they've not won for a long time, they'd probably have a parade now. And it'd be embraced here, and people would show up, and they'd be ecstatic to be there.
Well, I can't argue against your hypothetical.
It's a great hypothetical,
right? I can't. You have something that's not ever happened and you say it's going to happen. So
I will. Yeah,
I can't argue against that.
If Nebraska wins a championship,
I'm going to be 7 foot. I'm going to be 7 foot by July 1. I will be 7 foot tall by July 1.
It's getting surgery or something.
No, I'm not. I'm growing. How can you prove I'm not? I will be 7'1", and I will be in the NBA on July 1.
At the same age that you're at currently.
I mean, what? I mean, how can I argue against
if you're going to have
your dream?
Corey says there wasn't a parade, but there should have been a parade. So that helps me out. Thanks, Corey.
Doesn't really help you at all.
It does.
Actually. In fact,
I regret not having the parade.
No, it doesn't help you one bit because he said there wasn't a parade.
But
and you said if there was a national title, they'll have a parade. Okay, all right. What else will they do, Jake? Tell me what else they'll do. They got to change colors to green and gold. I mean,
if they had the parade, it'd be critical in the state of Nebraska that the Shriners are there, driving those little carts and then the wheelie car.
I just don't think
it's
necessary. That's where I stand.
Alert Shriners.
Million people.
Why can't you just have fun with the parade? I think
why
Kansas City were having a great time yesterday. Now
why
we had our own thoughts about the actual players and how they represented themselves in certain circumstances. Right. But again, that's your favorite players if you're Chiefs fans.
I guess
that you can just talk to and throw a beer to. That's pretty cool.
Talk to them. Anyway, that's why
Steve Sipple strongly against parades.
Yeah,
celebrations overrated. Don't celebrate
parades in general. So, even like a 4th of July.
No. These parades,
so you wouldn't go to Seward or anything like that.
These parades for the team are completely unnecessary. Didn't happen here.
Faisal says I was at the celebration at the Devaney Center. Waited outside for the team to arrive for like 2 or 3 hours, freezing my butt off.
Yeah, that was
so. It wasn't a parade, but there's a party in some capacity.
It was good. It was a good party too, by the way. It was not a parade.
Casey in Topeka says Sip is literally being a grumpy old man right now, as he talked about the movie earlier.
Well, no, I'm not being grumpy. I just don't.
He's
all
grumpy.
I'm
He's very
He says,
grumpy.
don't celebrate your championship.
And then all of a sudden
parade.
I'll be 7-1. What that just came
Well,
out.
it's hypothetical.
No, but just
I can't argue.
that analogy is awful.
I can't argue against hypotheticals. I mean,
Tyler says you're being an old curmudgeon right now.
I am not being an old curmudgeon.
Someone please on the text line stick up for Sipple, because I think it's going to be an offer. I think you're going to maybe.
Does anyone feel like Sip stands on parades after championships is valid? Don't celebrate the damn thing.
I don't.
Austria.
No. I'm not saying you don't celebrate it.
What's your idea for celebrating that the fans can be a part of?
Open up the arena downtown and have like a celebration in there. Now there was 1 million people.
You can't put 1 million people in the
Right.
dome.
That'd be very hard.
Right.
Be very tight.
Right.
Talk about concession problems.
Yeah.
Put 1 million people
That
in
would happen
PBA.
right there.
We're going to be up against it.
I'm just watch the videos and tell me what you think. And I know you know what I'm talking about. So
Well, Travis Kelce was having a good time. Patrick Mahomes was definitely drunk, but again, that's fun for the fans of Kansas City. Now, am I an envious Dolphins fan looking at that? Yes, I want that for myself. And I told you, if the Dolphins won, I would be at the parade. I would go to Miami. I'd be there. I'd call it from there.
The live feed would be outstanding.
yeah, I suppose. Oh, what was the title of my?
I missed out on all the fun.
Yeah. So what are you surprised by this stand?
No, you have a chance at fun and you're willingly missing out on it. So that's your own choice.
I think you could. Yeah, I don't know how you. I don't know. Just it doesn't look like a good thing to me. And plus, I don't like crowds. So
okay, well, that's your own stance.
Yeah.
I don't feel that way, but
you'd be
more
there.
power to you.
You'd be in Miami.
Okay,
Acting like a complete
regarding
ass.
a real, I would be the ass of the parade. I would be. Regarding a real question involving the Chiefs and their parade and their celebration, I have a question that has been bothering me for a while, because we've discussed on the show how it is much easier to build a dynasty in college because you don't get punished for great years, you get rewarded. But I would ask this, why is it so hard to find the right guys in management for these different franchises? Like the Lions forever have been a joke. The Browns forever have been a joke, despite a couple years where they've bounced up to make the playoffs. Mostly a bad franchise that cannot get it right at certain spots, bad draft choices despite high draft choices. And the Chiefs have just with Veach, and then before him, Pioli was good as a GM. They just have been getting it right. Why is it so hard to find those right guys as a GM and make those picks?
I'm not sure how the reason why it's so hard to find them. Just that obviously it takes a very special person to be able to do that, and then to be able to work. I would imagine the thing that if you went back and had an outside firm study someone would be that they're not in total alignment. The ones that are not, it's not total alignment from top down. That's where everything falls. Is from it could be from the owner, how he's handled, from the next, how everything works. Like I said, you watch the Steelers, you'd be like the Rooney family, probably in line pretty well of how things work at that place. Same thing with the Patriots. The different places that you just know do things the right way, but the total alignment is where everything gets off. If all of a sudden it's just that if everyone's an independent contractor,
no, it's Nebraska
within. If you're an independent contractor and you're not totally in line from top down with everyone and everything, I don't know if you could get in a better alignment than what to start everything off here than back when it was when Devaney came here, and then when Devaney took over as the AD with Coach Osborne. Like that, I mean, total alignment, top down.
Alignment.
I mean, all the way down through every area. But so that's the total alignment is where the errors happen, and what exactly is needed. There might be some places that are known forever, like they just love the flashy pick because no one gets excited in the first round when it's like all of a sudden that they take an offensive center. All of a sudden they're like, next on the clock, it's the Titans. It's like, oh, everybody wants the skill guy. They want to have this fancy pick or anything. So that's where the total alignment's where the errors happen.
It can, and now like when Tom was winning national titles, it wasn't total alignment because he and Bill Byrne weren't always on the same page. But you can overcome that if you have someone as powerful and proficient as Osborne. Osborne could supersede a lot of the misalignment problems because he was Tom Osborne. He was that good. But generally, I think Bill's right. And then Nebraska's a shining example of misalignment. I mean, this place got off the tracks largely because of not what happened in the coaching realm. It was I always said it was above the coaches that was the issue, the major issue, going back to the Solich era. Nebraska got out of whack because largely of what was happening above them at the chancellor level, the AD level. So yeah, I mean, Nebraska's a shining example of this. And Jake, it's just like anything else in the world. Sometimes you don't have the right people running the ship. You just don't.
And but some places it happens all the time. Like
you have the right people.
When you have a team, like whether it's in college or the NFL or any professional sport, that it consistently loses. If you're the owner, you got to say, "What the hell am I doing? Is it me?
Well,
is it me?
It can be.
Am I hiring the wrong people? Do I have the wrong GM? I've been hiring and firing. What's my problem?
What have you heard DP say about the Texans? You've heard those DP talk about the Texans. It's a terrible organization. It is. It is. I mean, the stuff that those guys say about it is, it's no wonder they're terrible. And they'll probably remain terrible for some time until they get new people at the top. Right? You've heard the stories.
The Commanders, Redskins, Daniel Snyder's been there for a long
Great
time. They've just been in chaos ever since he took over the Redskins.
Really good example. You just have the wrong guys, wrong people. And the Chiefs clearly have the right people.
They do. Everybody's aligned there. They're all in the same
mission. They seem to be.
Again.
And you have Andy Reid, who even if they were not, well, I don't know if Andy Reid could overcome GM owner issues or not. But if I would give him a shot at it if they had that. Like if Andy Reid went to the Texans, could he whip that franchise around? Andy Reid.
As the head coach?
Yeah.
Yes.
You think?
I think he could.
Maybe.
Because if you're a GM, you'd better respect Andy Reid because what's he done? He's won 2 Super Bowls in 4 years.
But how rare is Andy Reid?
That's also why
he's rare, right?
He's rare. There's always that. You'll see it a lot of times when coaches are hired. What's their level that they have? If you had a Bill Parcells, you always start. He wanted to have everything, which means he had final say on everyone that's drafted.
He was basically the coach and GM.
And so some places you don't have that. That's where a big disconnect can be also, where the team and the head coach and like that, we need this. And the GM and the owner's like, yeah, we're going this way. So that's always there's a classic disconnect in the NFL. It also always kind of blows my mind a little bit of the heirs in the NFL, like these, like the complete bust, because you have so much time to spend with them. You get to send them through every mental test, all these different things that you can do with them. Go work them out. You get to go to dinner with them 10 times. Yeah. In college, you don't get to do that.
How do you
because you're taking them in college, you're trying to convince them to come to you. And so that's a whole different schematic of what's going on and how you build your roster. NFL, you tell them you're coming. In college, they tell you if they're coming.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's really hard to understand how teams can botch a first round pick, or let alone the number
Jets.
1 overall pick.
Like the Jets.
Zach Wilson, not a good quarterback.
How do you do that? How do you it's mesmerizing to me. That study of the Jets.
They fall in love with the wrong things, right? They like his arm strength. But there's more beyond arm strength that he probably was failing at. But they maybe were blinded by, right?
What were they blinded by, Jake?
He looked good throwing the ball without pads on in his warm-ups.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of stuff on the field.
He was good at BYU.
Really good. He was really good.
But were there signs that he was going to struggle in the NFL at his time at college to make him worthy of the number 2 overall pick?
Just like I said, never played against him, never really just watched him play. I thought he was impressive, but to evaluate him as an NFL quarterback, I didn't do that, so I can't speak on it. But they obviously did.
He's been a major league bust.
He has been. He's not done yet, though. He'll be on the field at some point in time, so he'll still have a chance to potentially recover some. So there's always been.
Yeah, he will.
But there's been. Just go down the major league bus in NFL first round quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Ryan Leaf,
you can go all the way
Jamarcus Russell.
I mean,
all top picks here.
And that goes on and on and on of all the errors it still shocks me, and that's why the great teams are, like I said, if all 70 of your draft picks are on your team and productive, and then the big thing is the undrafted free agents, because there's going to be 4 or 5 of those guys are going to make your team, and do you get the right 4 or 5 guys right when everything's over in round 7, Mr. Irrelevant's done? the phones ring within seconds, and they have an option for you. We're offering you this contract. Are you taking it? Yes or no? That's the question. There is no hang up the phone. You tell me right now, yes or no. Yeah. If they say yes, okay, boom. If they say no, okay, good luck to you. And they just go to the next. And how you hit on some of those is really, really big.
You know who's aligned too? The Bengals. I mean, Zach, they got quarterback, head coach, GM, owner, all in alignment. That's why Zach says they'll have to carry me out of here in a casket. Zach said that. They'll have to carry me out of here in a casket. Because
they have the smallest organization in the NFL.
Really?
The Bengals do. Somebody could probably prove me wrong on that, but they're the smallest.
in what regard?
With scouting system, everything goes. Oh, absolutely. There's some like the Cowboys would be. I bet Cowboys have 3 or 4 times the employees.
Really?
That what the Bengals do.
Yeah.
And so it's a very small that handles the decision making is a very small group.
Zach Taylor talks about it that their total alignment with the GM, owner, himself. I mean, you could go down to the quarterback. I mean, they're set there. That bunch of people going forward will be together and they'll win. I don't know if they'll win a Super Bowl or
they played one,
right? But
they were close this year.
But you're probably looking at them and saying they're a playoff team next year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can almost say that. Yeah, going forward, they're probably going to be a playoff team, and that's part of the reason is they're aligned so well. Now, also Joe Burrow helps a lot. But it's not just that. So yeah, it's a fascinating discussion. Bill wasn't here during the Pelini era, but Pelini had to win. And Bill, I'm not talking off the cuff here. I covered it. I talked to Bo all the time. I talked to people over there all the time. I'm not talking about gossip. It was rough. It was rough because there was no alignment from the chancellor to the AD to the coach. The coach didn't even talk to the AD. He wanted to. He couldn't
get a hold of him.
Well, he couldn't get a hold of him, or he was supposed to go through an intermediary. When you hear a coach has to go through an intermediary to get to the AD, it's trouble.
That's not good.
No, it's trouble. It's usually trouble. It doesn't work. And they didn't want Bo. You see things like when they beat Northwestern on the Hail Mary, the AD was not happy. You saw him if you saw him on the sideline, you're like, oh God, he's crushed. They just won. Okay, that's a red flag. When people in the organization are misaligned, and you win a game like that and everybody's celebrating, but then you see the AD and he's glum, that's trouble. It's trouble. And that's happened here way too often. I'm sorry to bring that up. It's true.
Why are you trying to bring it up? I wasn't here for him.
Bill wasn't on the staff. Come on, he wasn't even here for this.
Those are rough times.
When you're in between, like I said, obviously with my passion for Nebraska, but when you're in between Nebraska jobs, you really have people like, hey, what's going on up there? I've got no idea.
You have no idea.
I'm like,
we didn't want to know, by the way.
We have our own set of concerns, problems, and things, whatever's going well.
Here.
I'm
employed
here.
Time for that.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know those players, so I don't know, but hope things go well for them.
Are the Dolphins aligned? You can speak with authority about the Dolphins.
Well, I think the owner is the problem in Miami. Stephen Ross he's kind of crazy. And I think there's owners like him out there that they just want to have constant turnover. They want to have the success now, and they kill potential growth by doing so.
Mm-hmm.
They basically have been firing coaches every 3 years in Miami. You got 3 years to make the playoffs, get it right, and guess what? If you don't, you're out. Brian Flores had 3 years. Adam Gase had 3 years. Mike McDaniel's going on to year 2 now. He's made the playoffs, which is a step, but Adam Gase made it year 1 and was fired after year 3. If you look, it's every 3 years somebody else. Because he just won't let anything grow.
Yeah, you can talk authoritatively about the Miami franchise. Everything about
it's chaotic down there.
Yeah, there you go.
And sometimes I feel like they're right in firing the coach, but the last time Flores, I was optimistic about what he could do, and I was upset when he fired Brian Flores.
Yes,
and
you were,
but
you had to leave work.
He had
to leave work.
Yeah.
Now you would say
that morning. I was upset that morning.
He was upset. You
That's incredible.
It's true. We'll go back to that.
I finished the show, then I left.
Yeah, I appreciate that though, to be that worked up.
He was that worked up. You would say that the Dolphins have to win despite their owner.
Yes.
Okay, that's trouble.
Stephen Ross,
good luck, Jake.
They just lost a draft pick because he was tampering with Sean Payton and Tom Brady. They lost a first-round pick.
Also in the
AFC,
also in the AFC is an organization that's aligned the Bengals, the Chiefs, the same way with quarterbacks that are better than yours. Who do you think's gonna
Yeah,
who's going to the
guys.
Super
Take
Bowl?
both those teams over Miami. It'd be an upset for the Dolphins to win. And they have talent, but the problem is that it's not aligned. Absolutely.
Just like Bill was saying. I mean, you can speak with great authority about that franchise.
I hope someday that's not the case. And I can speak like the Bengals and the
you
Chiefs.
Can't, if you have to say these words, we have to win despite our owner. That's trouble.
That's probably. I bet Dolphins fans would say the same thing.
I bet Texans fans would say the same thing.
And I don't know
and Commanders fans, Redskins.
I don't know the numbers on it, but there's also some owners that are so in the middle of everything. You talk about like the Cowboys. Jerry Jones, he's the one who speaks to the media after a game. He's the only owner.
Who does that?
Right after the game, like we're going to go to the interviews, Mr. Jones. I mean, that's the first guy they talk to.
Now, is that trouble?
I don't know. Obviously, he's had some success, but it's different. And I know that the owner, is it Ziggy? Is that his name with the
Ziggy
Vikings?
Ziggy Wilf.
He does,
Vikings.
for the most part. He does not. He's not in house. He's in New Jersey. He's not in there even during the season. He would fly in like on Fridays.
But, yeah,
so
it is odd that Jerry speaks.
Would you say about the Cowboys they have not won at a high level because of their ownership? This is not our area.
Was Jerry speaking after games in the 90s when they had these the great teams?
I don't remember that. And obviously, the same thing. And wow, did they have talent? I mean, the talent is like ridiculous. Is there ever been a time where if you win a Super Bowl, right? If you win a Super Bowl as a coach, you're stamped, no matter what. Same way if you're a quarterback that wins a Super Bowl, you're stamped. Who talks about very often like that? Man, what a job by Switzer.
Yeah,
and won the Super Bowl. That's how talented they were.
Good point.
I mean, now obviously Switzer was one of the best college coaches ever. Did an unbelievable job. My point is, you never hear that.
You never really say that.
No, it's just you
never really say that.
No, it's kind of the same way with Coker at Miami when they won in 2001.
Not really. Now there's leftover talent, right?
But what's that? But I'm saying Coker walked into the most talented team.
A gold mine.
Yeah, a gold mine. One of the most talented teams in the history of college football.
That was a freak team.
Yeah,
it was a freak team.
That was left over from
Butch
Jimmy
Davis.
or Butch Davis.
Butch Davis. Yeah. And that's what you always love. That'd be a great question to ask sometime. Hey, Butch, would you done that over? Because he left that talent to go to Cleveland. Be the head coach at Cleveland, and he walked away from a national championship.
I don't even know if you have to ask that question.
I mean,
it did not go well in Cleveland for Butch.
Did not go well in Cleveland, and it's like he had one of the most. And it was the next year, right? They won it the
first year.
They won it. So it wasn't like, well, they were 3 years off. No, they weren't. They were 1 year off.
He would have had a title.
Yeah,
and that team was amazing.
I wonder what the dynamic there was. Why did he want to go to Cleveland so bad?
I think
why does anybody want
3
to go
letters
to
NFL?
That's probably right.
NFL, yeah. That's he left a championship.
He left an NFL team for another.
He
NFL
did.
Team.
Yeah.
That team was ridiculous at Miami. They had so many first round and draft picks in general.
I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah. It was never.
It could be. They were that
team.
dominant without a dominant quarterback.
Yeah, Ken Dorsey was just
Dorsey
good.
Was
he was a
good player, but you don't.
Great.
Andre Johnson, Jeremy Shockey, Clinton Portis,
keep going.
McGahee on that team.
Who was a safety?
They had Ed Reed.
They
had
who were the corners? I mean, it was every year. They had McKinney at left tackle.
Bryant McKinney. They had Dan Morgan.
They have so many great players you could forget. I mean, they had so many great.
Jonathan Vilma, I think, was on that team.
Vilma was definitely on that team. Clinton Portis was on that team.
Look at all these great NFL players.
But you imagine sitting there and going like, "What do you think?" Because it wasn't like I had no idea Portis was good. I had no idea. Wow, that shocks me. I thought that was an 8.
Shockey's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that was an 8-4 team. I walked away from. No, you knew. So when you walked out the door like that, you like I just walked away, from a heater.
I want to be careful.
Never walk away from a heater.
I want to be careful how I represent this, but I covered that team. I talked to Frank on the record, off the record, and it was pretty fascinating in the lead up to that game, where Frank's like would choose his words very carefully. What do you think, Frank? Off the record, like, can you do this? And it was really fascinating.
What did he say?
I mean, it was always like, they're really good.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know. This is going to be a rough one. It was kind of like that, right? I don't know.
So
I don't want to go too far down that road, but it was like that. Like, I don't know.
They didn't have a weakness.
This is gonna be
everything
tough.
was like every position was a strength.
Yeah, it was like there was a game. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I think that this wasn't a game where you'd say Nebraska has to play perfectly to win. I don't even know if perfect would have done it.
Would have been lost by 10, maybe
Right.
instead of 23.
We might get within 10 if we play perfect.
Right? Yeah, competitive game, but you're not going to win the game.
But it's interesting, like I said, when certain how you weave through careers and things that got walked away from, and things that how you walked into something. But there's another example I said like that just the whole thing was about what coaches do you look at, and you never look at Coker like, man, this guy.
No, you don't.
It was like, man, this guy got. I know he
what you don't look at him like what? You don't look at him like he was Coker.
But no, you look at him like, man, he's a program builder. He did this. And there's some guys you look at and just go, wow, let's just follow their career, watch what they've done over their career and the different places that they've been. That didn't fall into that.
That'd be the Harbaugh quote that he was born on third base, basically, right?
About Ryan Day.
Some people are born on third base.
But I will say this though, we can't put but Coker, he didn't act like he was born on third. He was quiet, did his job. He wasn't walking around big eyes, big chest.
No, he wasn't.
And look at me. He was just I got to.
But Ryan Day doesn't really do that, does he?
No, I'm not saying he does.
No,
but I'm just saying that how he handled it.
Yeah.
I know this. I went down and visited Miami after they won the national championship. I was at Utah, and so I went down and spent 3 days down there.
So
with
you
them.
before the 02 season?
Yep. So this would have been spring ball.
Okay.
And I met with Stoops, who's now the head coach at Kentucky. He was the DB coach.
Oh.
And so we had
Mark
Stoops.
Mark Stoops
was the DB coach at Miami?
Absolutely.
Wow.
So he was great. He met with me for a couple hours before practice. I sat in his meetings, all those things. But what was outstanding was, so we're talking about some things they're doing coverage wise. And a number of times I'm like, Mark, we can't do that. We can't do that because you're stopping the run with like 6 guys. I go, we have to be +1 in the box. When I'm watching the film and I'm like going, yeah, we can't do that. This trip was a waste of my time. It was just, but it was like, all I said was, wow. I was like, wow.
That's gotta go now, Mark.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you guys do? What are you guys playing here? Quarters. And how about they go over to this? Quarters. How about they do this? Quarters. And then these 5 or 6 guys whip everyone's ass, and then we just double all these guys back here, and then they can't do anything. And then it was the most remarkable film. I came away from it just thinking that was fun. And then I watched practice, and I'm like, that was fun, but I got literally nothing out of it.
That's amazing.
What'd you get? I was like, hey, really good players. That's a Kyle Whittingham. What do you think? Really good players.
I wasted my time.
It's a waste of time.
I'm wasting my time.
It was impressive.
It was warm. It was nice. South Beach.
Yeah, someday I might have a radio show that I can share this story. It won't be a waste of time.
Yeah,
but
yes.
that's amazing. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Great weather, great video. But
Quarters.
help me out.
Quarters. Just we'll double the 2 outside receivers. Are the safeties in the run fit? No, don't need them. Don't need them. See the center getting knocked back? That really helped us a lot. How about see the pass rush? Yeah, we can rush 3 and sack the quarterback.
Couple of departures from Nebraska football. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Next, an early break in the ticket.